everybody, Marina here, back for another video. This one is going to be a review, and the book we're going to review today is The Cry of Winnie Mandela by Njabulo Ndebele from South Africa. This novel is based on the Greek mythology of Penelope, this woman who waited 17 years for her husband who went away. Upon her husband's return, she remarried him, but the city didn't know who that man was. So instead of thinking about the 17 years she spent waiting for him in vain, they were eager to criticize her for deciding to keep on living a life. In the meantime, the man murdered every man who came into Penelope's house, you know, courting her, wanting her to become their wives. But that part is never talked about. Why? Because it's easier to criticize a woman than to point out all the things that a man can do that can be wrong or that can wrong the woman. So in this novel, Njabulo Ndebele invite like 4 women, and these women are going to talk about their stories, how they waited for their husbands, and they waited in a different ways. The first one waited, I think, because her husband went abroad to study and become the first doctor of the town. He was supposed to become the first doctor. The other one went in exile because he was a political activist, because the story is set during the Apartheid era, of course. The other one waited for her husband to come back to his senses because he was still alive, but he was gone already. Gone into alcoholism, gone into womanizing, gone into many things, but physically he was there. And she kept her dignity by being supportive of her husband that was no longer one, actually. But she knew what the society would have thought of her had she left or had she abandoned the shadow of the man she had married. And in one of their reunions, one of the lady would suggest that they write to Winnie Mandela, who had waited for so long for her husband to come back. So through their story, she suggests that they write to her telling their own stories, or write to her just expressing themselves. So each and every one of them will express themselves differently. Some will address frantically. The other one will just tell a own story of waiting, how a waiting went sour, and the other one will kind of condemn her also. These women's points of view, or the way of addressing Mama Winnie, is up to you to decide and analyze as you please. But for me, at times, I felt like the author was being too intrusive. They were going too much into Umama's intimacy, and they were asking questions that I was like, who are you to ask? And I kept reminding myself that this book was written by a man. So even if the intentions are good, the book is good. I'm not saying that it is not. The intentions were good, and the way of doing things probably was also meant to be good, okay? But the outcome made me feel uncomfortable because I wouldn't dare ask another woman these questions. And I am a woman, okay? Don't doubt that. I'm a woman. I'm a girl. I'm a sister. I'm not a mother. Maybe not. I'm not a wife, okay? But I'm still a woman. And certain things, even if you're not married, even if you don't have children, there are questions, actually, that you cannot ask somebody. And those questions were making me feel uncomfortable. And I was like, if I was Winnie Mandela, I wouldn't answer those questions because I don't owe you anything. I made my choices. I live the life I've lived. I made the choices I made. I made mistakes, certainly, because I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. But for you to think that I owe you anything, even deep down into my intimacy, I'm like, that's way too much. The other thing that almost got me out of the the novel was the dryness. This book is good, but at times I felt it was too academic. Okay, the language is not as simple as I wish it was. I understood everything, I got it, etc. But I know that it could have been done differently or made more easier for a larger audience to get into. And I felt also at times as if this was being the trial of Winnie Mandela, not just the cry, but the trial. The part that I appreciated a little bit also, and I found it weird, but nevertheless I understood why he did that, is that Winnie Mandela is going to answer these women to the letter. And even if I was thinking, you don't owe them anything, I was also understanding that he needed to give her a voice. She needed to speak. So, yeah. Get into this knowing that it is a work of fiction, but the thing is, it is a work of fiction based on the truth, based on facts. If you're, just like me, a die-hard fan of Mama Winnie Mandela, you know the things, you know these stories because you've heard them, because you've seen many of the propaganda, and you've heard the truth when she passed away, when people started to come in front of the camera and say, okay, we did this on purpose. We did this because we wanted her, we wanted to stain her name. We didn't want her to be celebrated. We didn't want her to be recognized into history as a great woman, but we wanted her to be recognized as a murderer, as a cheater, as this and as that. So we worked for that. I'm not saying it. If you check on Google or you go on YouTube, you will find those videos. So what they are basically saying is, we told you lies about this woman because we didn't want her to be a hero. We were afraid of her. We were scared of her strength because she was resilient and she was a fighter, and we didn't know what she could do, and she was going against all this circus that we were trying to call a new state. So they have to destroy her somehow in order for their plan to keep going. This is good in terms of knowing, if you haven't read many things about Winnie Mandela yet, you should be reading The Cry of Winnie Mandela, just so you can see also the strength of South African women in general. Because these women are strong. They're not strong because they chose to be. Women are always strong. We are born strong. We don't have any other choice when we're going to live in a patriarchy. We have to be stronger than the strength itself, okay? But these women are even stronger because they had to raise their children. They had to keep their families together. They had to do so many things for the absent husband or fiance or whatever, only for them to come back and go marry somebody else. Only for them to come back into their lives and say, you're no longer the kind of woman I want. All the while for 10 years, you paid for their tuition. You helped them. You had their back. But once they reach their goal, they look down on you and say, you're not good enough for me. And you know what? Society will also tell you, yeah, but it's good. He became the man that you wanted him to become. You shouldn't have, you couldn't have left him, because that's the role of a woman, to support her husband and to accept being denied the pleasure of enjoying his success. Yes, because you can still say that you used to be in his life. Bullshit. If I was there for you, I'm not going to curse you. I'm not, because, you know, it's not going to work. But I'm going to make you understand that I was there. So you cannot allow yourself to look down on me. You cannot look down on me because I know you. I know you. I know where you've been. I don't care which title you have now. I don't care how great you think you are. I was there when you were nobody. I was there when you couldn't spell your name properly, and I taught you. So I'm going to remind you every chance I get. If you try to disrespect me, I will remind you of that. But society will tell you, no, you don't have to do that, because doing that is emasculating, a man, and black women, you know you are stronger than bullshit. If the guy disrespect you, disrespect him in return. I don't care. If he doesn't want to be disrespected, he doesn't disrespect you in public or even in the private area. Because if you want to do something, cut him down. But anyways, back to the book. Will I recommend this one? Yes, to those who want to know Mama Winnie more. Yes, to those who are curious enough to go through, to push through, because as I said, since it is academic, like really, it might seem a bit heavy, and the fact that he talks a lot about Penelope may not suit everybody. But in itself, it is worth the read just to know and recognize the strength of South African women, to know that they are the backbone of that society. And if the society is where it is today, is because they didn't listen to what women had to say at a very important point in their history. And a particular woman had something to say. Her name was Winnie Mandela. You didn't listen to her. You didn't. You were too busy judging. You were too busy spitting on her. You were too busy. And I'm not saying South Africaners. I'm talking about those in power. The men in power. They always have a problem when a woman have a say in a matter that they consider to be theirs to solve. Always listen to women when they have things to say. You can pretend that the ideas come from you, but listen to them carefully. Because I think God created wisdom in the bottom of a woman. So anybody who want to be wise, got to learn how to listen to their mama, their sisters, their wives. And I'm not saying they have to obey, but just listen so you can analyze and compare and understand and recognize that light emanate from these women. That's all I had for you today. The Cry of Winnie Mandela by Njabulo Ndebele, and I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Darling, see you in my next video. Bye-bye.